Okay, so we can see President Trump getting out of the vehicle, as was anticipated. We did think that he would probably do that. We have seen that happen with previous presidents, of course, as we've been discussing for you in the last hour or so here on Sky News. Vice President Pence has literally just gone past us in his vehicle as well. Potentially he will do the same thing as well. Adam, you did say if you were a betting man, that's exactly what he would do, and indeed he has. Not disappointed.
No, he's followed tradition in that sense, one of the few traditions that he's holding up. Interesting too, seeing that his wife Melania is also braving it in spite of her blue high heels. This, of course, is the moment of maximum anxiety for all the security services and the Secret Service protecting the new president. At times on the route, there have been more members of the security services visible than there were people watching the parade, but this is where they're probably most thick in terms of numbers along the route, so there are plenty of cheers for the new president and First Lady. And of course one has to remember that these are going to be iconic pictures. Pennsylvania Avenue, you normally wouldn't risk walking down the middle of it. It's a busy road in Washington, but these are the pictures that people will have with the Capitol building in the background of the new president and his wife. Also, their small son Barron walking with them. He's already had advice from previous children growing up in the White House as to how he should approach it. Of course, his half-sisters and brother will not be living in the White House, although, as you were saying, they've changed the name of the office to the Office of the First Family. So far, Donald Trump hasn't actually gone to the crowd and shaken their hands, as he says himself, he is a germaphobe, doesn't like physical contact. And he's now getting back into the beast after a relatively short walkabout. Maybe he'll get out again when he arrives at the White House. But as you can hear, there are cheers, much larger than any jeers or boos that we heard earlier on down the route.
Has escalated into a fairly serious car fire, which you can probably see right there. We're right back because, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not fantastically happy about standing near a car that's fully on fire. That's a limousine. It was trashed earlier. The windows were kicked out. People were vandalising it. Similar things have happened on the street earlier. We'll circle around the side here, see if we can get you a slightly better view. Earlier, there were plenty of dustbin fires in the street. Now, of course, the fire department's on its way because that's pretty dangerous, and that will have to be put out because it's right next to a building. Goodness knows how many people are in there. Hopefully they've gone home for the day because there was so much violence in this area. This is part of an ongoing kind of rolling set of issues with the protesters that has been happening for maybe 4 or 5 hours now. It started when some protesters vandalised some shops. They were kettled and penned in by police who decided to deploy full riot squads. Jen, let's just move over to this side of the street. Another burning bin there. Those protesters were kettled in, and then that attracted an awful lot of attention. Hundreds of protesters arrived in various guises who had previously been peaceful. Now the police are moving, Jen. Move back. Just let you watch these pictures while we move, Kay.
Yeah, I mean, we can see that perfectly well, so do be careful, Hannah. You don't need to get any closer to it. We can absolutely see what's happening. It is a car fire. There's some thick black smoke there. It is a vehicle that appears to have been set on fire by the protesters there. As you were telling us earlier, something like 90 people had been arrested. I think that's what you were telling us. I'm sure you'll correct me if that was wrong. And as the parade continues here, 22 states taking part in this parade. The people where you are really want to have their voices heard. They really want President Trump to know that it's not okay that he's the 45th president.
Yes, and the vast majority of them have been peaceful, but there have been small pockets of really fierce resistance to the police and vandalism. As soon as there's destruction to property anywhere in America, police move on that very forcefully, but now there's also danger to individuals, or danger to human beings. Let's wander around the side here, so we move away from that thick black smoke as it pours out of that limo, which has been set on fire. The police have had to switch their lines. They were hanging back, and actually the momentum had kind of come out of the protests for that reason. They'd managed to split up all the individuals who were kind of responsible for instigating the set of issues, including throwing large blocks of smashed up cement that they had arrived with, presumably in their bags. So the police managed to split them up. There were quite a lot of arrests made. It wasn't fantastically pretty, but it was at least effective. They used tear gas and so on. Now you can see the fire department, I think, are probably trying to deal with that. Yeah, the fire department's arrived. We could probably sneak a bit closer now. But now the police are not so in control of the situation because they've had to leave their lines, come forward and push protesters back to stop them being close to the limousine that was on fire. And as we've been saying all day, Kay, the optics of this are pretty awful, really. This is exactly what the security services did not want to happen. This was the aim of some of the protesters. However, it has happened on the streets of DC. Very ugly scenes as Donald Trump is supposed to be celebrating Inauguration Day alongside the peaceful transfer of power. It just simply hasn't been peaceful on the streets of DC, just a few meters from where his parade is happening.
Okay, we're just going to let you gather your thoughts there, Hannah, and we will be... Okay, so just get out of the way, Hannah, there. Make sure you keep safe, and we will be back with you very shortly, continuing to look at these images of some of the protesters just a few blocks away from the images to the left of your screen, and those who are less than happy that Donald Trump is the 45th president. Adam, back to you for now.
And Donald Trump has got out of his car again with his wife and son, Barron, where the crowd is gathered. Let's listen to some of the noises they're making. He's really not very far from the White House now. It's been a very slow parade, and one wonders what information he's had on the scenes Hannah Thomas-Peter was reporting on just there, making a lot of gestures with his hands. And as we stay with those pictures, let's just recap on the policy announcements which have come here since, in the few hours since the president was sworn in. The new Trump administration posted its policies on the White House website within minutes of the inauguration. President Trump will withdraw America from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TTP, the fair trade deal that was designed to bring down global trade barriers. He underlined his intentions on climate change, saying he'd cancel President Obama's climate action plan. America will develop a new missile defense system to protect against attacks from states such as Iran and North Korea. The president will also follow through on his commitment to build a border wall with Mexico to stop illegal immigration. Finally, he'll uphold Second Amendment rights, that is, the right to own a gun, at every level of the country's judicial system. He has also pledged to cut taxes, including corporation tax. Well, Donald Trump's core message is isolationist. and it will worry those fearing that America's withdrawal from the world stage could take place under its new president. Mr. Trump said his administration would seek friendship with the nations of the world, but it was the right of all countries to put their own interests first. Now here he is arriving in Lafayette Park, which is at the back of the White House. This is where the observation stand has been set up for the president. So the president will get out of his vehicle, greet the crowd, and then go into the observation tank. Has to be said, when I was in Washington, D.C. for the election back at the beginning of November, they were already starting to construct the stands for the inauguration more than 2 months later. So there's a lot of preparation goes into these events.
I think if you don't live here, it is slightly baffling how much effort they put into one day. The stands, the whole of the back of the Capitol Hill is completely redesigned. I mean, that platform he was on, it's a huge amount of timber. That takes months to build as well. And then this very elaborate parade. The reason is because they have enormous pride in this peaceful transfer of power. And this time around, it's strayed off the script to a certain extent because of these protests, the rioting, the burning of cars, not the backdrop that Donald Trump would like to have to his inauguration parade, not the kind of pictures he's going to want to see on split screen tonight when he reviews the day's events.
Well, I, for one, have not seen Nigel Farage today, although I know he's in Washington, D.C., but he has, like the president, been on Twitter. Nigel Farage tweeting a picture of the helicopter being waved off with the caption, "Goodbye, Obama," and also a picture of Donald Trump saying a genuine political revolution has taken place in America. And we know that Nigel Farage is now going to have a role in the United States, as I understand it, in as much as he's got a TV contract.
Yeah, he's going to be a contributor to Fox News, we understand. I'm not sure that's been fully confirmed, but that seems to be the rumour, which gives him a role and certainly a salary, I'd imagine, as well, some more financial stability, having left UKIP as its leader, then interim leader, then leader again. So he's going off in a different direction. I guess also that will give him a sort of after-dinner speaking career here, which can be fairly lucrative on the circuit in America.
And he's also going to be attending at least one of the balls, I think, this evening, where he will meet President Trump. Donald Trump, as president-elect last night, rather disappointed Nigel Farage and his backer Aaron Banks. He didn't go to their party, I understand.
They had a party, a big party in the Hay Adams Hotel, I think, but yes, he couldn't make it, unfortunately. I think you have to say that Nigel Farage is still the reason, and his entourage, why this man that we're seeing in the centre of the picture has a reservoir of goodwill towards Britain, arguably more than any diplomatic reasons or any efforts by the British government.
Yeah, it should also be said there was an official party in advance of the inauguration at the British Embassy, hosted by the ambassador, Sir Kim Darroch. Again, Donald Trump was a no-show at that as well.
Even though Donald Trump would like to see Nigel Farage as the next British ambassador here, relations, I think, still strained, but I think Boris Johnson's visit here, meeting members of the Trump team, not Donald Trump himself or his nominated Secretary of State, because that would be breaking protocol, but meeting senior members of the transition team, that seems to have warm relations between them. And I think Boris Johnson has managed to use his charm and his bonhomie to restore relations to a certain extent between Trump's transition team and government now and the May administration. But I still think it's largely the warmth that Donald Trump feels towards Britain. A lot of it is to do with Nigel Farage, who he sees as the hero of Brexit, which he saw as a prelude to his revolution here.
Well, we saw the whole Trump family there, children and grandchildren, getting out of their vehicles, and I think some of his nephews and nieces as well in that group. I'm fascinated by this idea that rather than have a first lady, they're going to have a first family. We're going to see a lot of them.
Yeah, it seems to be, and Donald Trump very much operates in terms of being part of a family, and he sees his family, particularly his daughter and his Ivanka and daughter's her husband, Jared Kushner, and other members of his family as not just relations but counsellors, supporters. For him, loyalty and trust is hugely important, and he seems to derive that most from members of his family. So he's putting people like Jared Kushner in key roles in his administration, and he wants to be surrounded by his family. That's in line with what we've seen with Donald Trump as a campaigner, and he seems to be taking that into the White House as now Donald Trump the president.